All right, and we are here and getting ready to do this show today. First of all, I want to go ahead and say Happy New Year because it's the first show coming back in after our short hiatus during the Christmas holidays and everything. Everyone's got to take a little bit of a break sometime, and we did as well. So we are back with another show on today, and we're going to have a blast with this one. Please remember to go ahead and go over to the YouTube channel and go ahead and subscribe because you don't want to miss out on any of the content over there because we have got everything that we've shown in the in the past. Moving forward, everything's going to be on there. All the library is stored there. Whatever platform you're going to be watching it on, just make sure you go over there so you can be reminded of newer things that are going to be coming out throughout the year. So there is the link for that. That'll be embedded in all the feeds on there as well. But it is not all about what's going to be happening in the future on here. We're talking about the present. Today, my guest is across the pond. This is fun whenever I get to do this because I kind of feel like I'm almost a celebrity at this point. I'm actually talking to people, that are not in the U.S. This is awesome. So my guest today is Gary Parkin. We're going to bring him on right now.
Hello.
What's up, Gary?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I am doing great. Why don't you go ahead and let everybody know who you are, what you do, where to find you? Go ahead and let them know what's going on with you.
Yep. I'm the writer, artist, publisher of Underglow Comics. Sell comics mostly through Kickstarter. I started about 3 years ago when I got furloughed from work. It was the first comic I put out at 38 years old at the time. After years of wanting to do it, I finally did it, and now I seem to be making a bit of a success of it. So I've got a campaign on now called Jungle Jade on Kickstarter, and that's about it.
Awesome. And we will definitely be discussing about Jungle Jade here in just a little bit. First of all, I like to kind of get to know the creators a little bit and get to know, who you are and everything, just to verify that you're not just AI trying to take over the world in in a human body and everything. We want to make sure you're actually human at some point. And if you are AI and I see red lights over there, we may have technical difficulties and may have to shut this thing down. Just a warning out there in the beginning.
I'll try not to be AI then.
But I mean, we have a lot of fun on here. We have a lot of fun getting to know the guest and find out what's happening with y'all. So the first question I got to ask, and it's kind of a generic one, but not, is first of all, what got you into doing comics, and what is your motivation in moving forward?
Years ago, when I bought the Death of Superman graphic novel, I was 11 at the time. And I just became obsessed with it. And I used to just sit and just copy every single page. Got to the point where I'd drawn every single page in that book 2 or 3 times. Just learning figure drawing and things just from drawing Superman and stuff. And then I went on and got into proper anatomy books and stuff. And then did art at university. Got a degree in animation. And then the plan was to go into comics straight out of uni. But I sent submissions off. I made some comics up and sent them off to publishers. But just got lots of rejection letters, so it kind of disheartened me a bit. So I just went into normal day jobs, and I never forgot about art. I was always doing art as a sideline for various companies in advertising and doing commissions and things. And then when I was furloughed from work at the start of the lockdown with coronavirus, I didn't know at the time, but it was going to then give me 6 months to work on something. So the day after I was furloughed, I straight away started working on my first comic, which was Vampocalypse. I mean, I've drawn things similar to comics before, so it wasn't like I was drawing comics for the first time, really. But I drew it all myself, wrote it myself, coloured it, and then when it was finished, I hadn't really planned what I was going to do with it. I think I was going to try and submit it to publishers again, but someone mentioned Kickstarter to me, so I had a look on there and thought, yeah, why not? So I put it on literally the same day I finished colouring the last page. Put it on Kickstarter, and it did all right. I think it made just under $2,000, which, I mean, I didn't know if that was good or bad, to be honest, because I was new to Kickstarter. But
Right.
I thought, well, it's a starting point, and I was still getting paid furlough money from work, so it wasn't like I needed the money to fund my life. But then, as I carried on doing it, I went back to work at my day job, where I was a customer service manager, which is just atrocious. So I went back in September 2020, and then by February 2021, I was earning enough from doing the Kickstarters that I could quit my job and do the comics full time, thankfully.
Nice. And I believe you're on your 20th campaign or something like that on Kickstarter. I believe what I had read on there.
Yeah, I can't believe it. The time's just flown. It still feels like it was just yesterday I was putting the first one out, and now I've got through 20. So it's not even just 20 Kickstarter. It's my 20th Kickstarter, but I've put out about 35 comics in that time. So
yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of content and a lot of different content that's come out. It's not just one. It's not just one IP that you're running out there. You've been running quite a few things, and they're all pretty much sticking pretty well. I mean, you throw something against the wall and you see what's going to be sticking on there, and pretty much everything that you're throwing out there is sticking one way or another, which is great because you're constantly. I don't think there's been one campaign that you have not funded, correct?
No, they're all funded. Yeah.
That is awesome right there. And of course, you mentioning about your first one and making $2,000, you didn't know if that was good or bad. And then of course, Kickstarter takes their fees out and you're like, ooh, got to do better next time.
Yeah. That's it. Well, in between my first Kickstarter campaign and my second one, I tried Indiegogo. So when I launched Jungle Captive #1, originally that went on Indiegogo and that only made about, I can't remember now, about $800, something like that. So that was even worse. So I spoke to some people that I knew were making Kickstarter comics, and they were like, "No, that Jungle Captive one, try that on Kickstarter as well, because it'll do well on Kickstarter." And then I did, and it made $10,000 for my second ever Kickstarter. So, so I think the not suitable for work stuff definitely does a lot better for me than like Vampocalypse is kind of an all ages one. So.
Exactly. And that is one thing that we're definitely going to be discussing on here. And let me go ahead and throw this up real quick, because just to let everyone know who's watching this, we will be discussing the dreaded NSFW. So I have the banner that I'm throwing up here to let everybody know so I can cover myself on this one. We're not going to be going as far as, we're going to be showing everything and all that, which I could if I want to. It's my show. But just to make it where everybody can watch this and kind of get an idea of what's going on, because you never know whenever you're throwing ideas out there of, what's available, on who doesn't know what you've been doing and is like, wait a minute, I'd like to take a look at this and see what's going on with this.
Yeah.
First off, I want to go ahead and say that as far as your products are concerned, it is not simply just a book of, pinups and just NSFW all the way through it with no content whatsoever. There are actual stories in there. And to kind of break the myth on there to everyone else, because I love doing this on my show every time, whenever you get these things in and they have the cover that's really pretty and you look at it and everything, you crack that thing open and actually has more of that pretty inside of it with words that make a story, and you can actually read through it. So just letting everybody know, it's not just the cover you're buying. This is an actual book that's got more stuff in there. And yours has got a lot of content that's in there for the different things that are on there. How do you come up with the ideas for the different IPs that you have? I mean, is there a lot of research that's involved in this? Do you reach out to other people and kind of get some ideas from them, or is just something that, is in your wheelhouse of something you love to read about as is anyway, and you just kind of pull from there?
It's a bit of a strange one, because the kind of comics that I'm writing aren't the kind of comics that I read at all. So Vampocalypse was the first one. I'm not really into vampires at all. It was just an idea that came to me. So I got the idea for Vampocalypse about 2 years before I started working on it, and I had started doing some sample pages before I was furloughed from work. I never ended up using those pages, but I got ideas and I had some ideas for characters. But that's where the ideas come from. I don't really know. And Jungle Captive, someone had seen Vampocalypse and they said to me, you should do some not suitable for work stuff. Have a look at Jungle, what's it called? Jungle Fantasy comic. So I had a quick look at them and I thought, that's not really my type of comic. That's a bit more adult. I'd say my comics are, they've got nudity, but it's just artistic nudity, because naked women are nice to look at. Whereas Jungle Fantasy isn't that kind of comic at all. So I took a little bit from it in the sort of the style of the way they look, but not the content of the stories. So I like sci-fi things. So Jungle Captive, I know it looks like it's just girls in a jungle, but it's a sort of sci-fi conspiracy thing. And then my other comic, Model Behavior, it just, I don't know. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do like a slice of life comic, but I didn't really know how to go about it. So I thought just a conversation between two people and just change who the two people are every time in every issue. So it's basically just models being interviewed by the photographer. So it's the same photographer every time, but him talking to three different models per issue and just having conversations about their lives, just to do something a bit different. But as to the being actual content and not just nudity, just to show your viewers sort of the amount of content I do. So this, oh wait there. So this is the hardcover of Vampocalypse. So it's got
Nice.
like the first 6 issues in it, and you can see from the spine it's a big book. It's got a lot of pages. I'll not flick through it in case there's any naughtiness inside. But, so I've got that's Vampocalypse, but then I've also got Model Behavior and Jungle Captive. Jungle Captive's 300 pages. So
Nice.
I wouldn't be able to get away with doing pin-ups. So just between those 3 books, there's nearly 800 pages. So I wouldn't be able to just do pin-ups. So yeah, I'm having fun writing. When I was at university doing my degree, I used to write a lot of sort of scripts for TV shows. Nothing ever got taken up, but I used to send stuff off to the BBC and Channel 4 in the UK to try and get scripts accepted. So while I'd say I'm primarily an artist, I have attempted writing in the past, and I've had a few books published. I wrote a book called Phone Monkey about 10 years ago that was about working in a call center and all the stuff that goes on, sort of the nefarious things that the companies do behind the customers' backs, and then the silly things that they make you do when you're training and stuff. So I wrote it anonymously, so I'm kind of breaking my anonymity now. But so I wrote that book, Phone Monkey, and it's still making me money now. I wrote that 10 years ago.
Nice.
And
this is definitely something that you found a passion for, that you wanted to get stepped fully into, because like you said, you were able to leave your job at the time and go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to throw that behind me and go ahead and move forward with my passion on this. And it's doing well for you just in the very first startup. Most times whenever you make a move like that, you're looking at 5 years before you start seeing any kind of forward movement on there. You've seen that almost immediately as soon as you started doing it.
I think it's because I'm just stubborn. Like once I set my mind to doing something, nothing's going to stop me doing it. And I was so desperate to get out of doing a 9 to 5 because I've always wanted to draw comics. And as soon as I realized that I could put them on Kickstarter, I thought I just want to do this as much as I can. So I was doing 9 hours a day at my day job, and I was getting home and doing 5 or 6 hours a night drawing comics for the Kickstarters, just knowing that if I was persistent enough, eventually I'd be able to quit my job. But obviously it happened more quicker than I expected after the Jungle Captive one made 10 grand. So that was beneficial. But,
now, you've also done some webcomic stuff, correct?
I've got one about to come out. I've been working on one basically called Flutters. There's a lady I know, that's the one, yeah. A lady I know called, what was she called? Isabel Hall. She came to me and said she'd seen my comics, and she thought it'd be suitable for like a young adult type thing. Have you heard of a comic called Heartstopper?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically the female version of Heartstopper. It's sort of a lesbian love story, but it's not an adult comic. There's no nudity or not. I don't think there's any swearing in it, or if there is, not a lot. So it's aimed at a teen audience. So we're launching that as a webcomic. Doing it in black and white rather than colour, just so I don't have to hire a colourist, and I can do it essentially for free. The only cost is just the paper that I draw on. So we're launching that one on Webtoons probably around March. I've got about 40 pages drawn. So when I get to about 50 or 60 pages, we'll launch that. And then and have that probably coming out maybe a chapter a month, maybe. And then once I've got it up to about 150 pages, then the plan is then to do a Kickstarter of it and release it as books in the same way that Heartstopper is. And then maybe try and sell it to a publisher.
Nice.
Basically, I'm just trying to copy the success of Heartstopper.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, as long as you're changing it up and it's not a direct copy by any means. But I mean,
not at all.
The way that they did it, absolutely. I mean, there's no problem with that. And kind of going along with that, the next one that I wanted to kind of go into, because it seems like everybody is figuring out some way to do a Cthulhu book. And you've got Killing Cthulhu. And I wanted to ask you, what exactly is that one about? What's the premise on that one, and what makes that one different? Because I saw the look of this one has automatically caught my attention. What's the premise behind it?
Well, it started that. Have you heard of Tyler James, who does the Comics Launch podcast?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was listening to some of his podcasts, and he was talking about his Seers for Cthulhu kids book that he does. And he was saying, "Oh, everyone's got a Cthulhu book. They always seem to make really good money." And so I went upstairs to my office, sat down at my laptop, and thought, "Right, I'm going to write a Cthulhu story." And it just kind of came to me off the top of my head. And it's just this rich guy, I forgotten what it's called now. I wrote it so long ago. This rich guy hires a private eye to hunt down Cthulhu and then sort of bring him in, and like kill him and bring him in, so this rich guy can have him as sort of a trophy. He's got like a cabinet room. I think it was on the picture you showed, where he's got trophies of like werewolf and Dracula, and he's got all these things in cabinets. I think it's oh yeah, the top right picture. Yeah,
Right.
I see it's trophy room with a big snake at the front and some sort of winged thing. But monster comics isn't really the kind of thing I'm interested in drawing. I enjoyed writing it, but so I put an advert out on Facebook looking for an artist for it, and an Italian lady called Giorgia Rosati contacted me and said she'd be interested in doing it. So I looked at her portfolio, and I think she was the first person to contact me, actually. But then I got about 50 more submissions after that, and none of them were as good as hers. So I spent like 3 days sending rejection letters to people. It was horrible because I know how it feels to get rejection letters. But yeah, so she started working on that. She's been drawing sort of a page a week because I can't. At the time when she started it, I couldn't afford to pay her up front for the whole thing. So I've been paying her sort of a couple of pages at a time, and she'll do a page a week. The first issue is now fully finished in black and white. I've got a colorist who's now just started coloring it. And then as soon as she's finished drawing the second issue, which should be about March or April, then we'll launch number one. See how that does. But
nice.
Yeah, it was something a bit different because it's more of a sort of horror story, sort of a mystery horror story thing, which isn't normally the kind of thing I write. So it was nice to have a challenge writing something else, knowing that I can write it as complicated as I want, and I know I don't have to draw those monsters or the docks or 1920s cars. Let someone else deal with that.
Well, see, and that's cool that you mentioned about the challenge on there, because sometimes the complacency of doing the same thing over and over and over again, not only for the creator themselves, of doing that, and it gets to the point where it's like, well, I'll throw something out there just to have another issue or whatever, or a reader will even be like, I read the last one, it really didn't have that much, depth to it this time around, so I'm going to skip on this one. But by challenging yourself and kind of spreading that wheelhouse out like you've been doing, people are paying more attention, going, wait a minute, I like these books over here, but I didn't know he has a monster book that he's working on over here now. That's really cool. Now let me tell my friends about monsters. So it actually opens up your field that's available in your marketing to get more people involved in what you're doing, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I think the mistake I did with Vampocalypse, Jungle Captive, and Model Behavior, those three comics. So when Jungle Captive finished last summer, you find out in the last issue that it's all tied to Vampocalypse, and it hasn't happened yet in the comic. But in the final issue of Model Behavior, which will be out probably by the end of this year, you'll find that Model Behavior is actually tied to Vampocalypse as well, and it's all one massive 28-part story. So looking back now, it was a bit foolish to try and do a 28-part story as my very first project. But it's nearly done now. I'm only about 3 or 4 issues short of finishing it. Because Jungle Captive was so popular, though, I'm doing a second Jungle Captive series called Brave New World, which follows on from where Jungle Captive number 5 left off. But yes, I'm really trying to work on totally new projects now. So once I've got the Vampocalypse type story out of the way, I'm going to be working on shorter, self-contained things like just one-off graphic novels or 4 or 5 issue miniseries. I don't think I'm going to attempt another 28-part story.
Now,
I might have a nervous breakdown.
With Jungle Jade, is that a spin-off from the Jungle Captive series, or how does that work with that?
No, it's totally separate. It's just unfortunate that I've got another comic that's got Jungle in the title.
Okay.
It's totally self-contained, so anyone who backs it, they can read that, and it's just not connected to anything I've written previously. It was the first story that's in it. So it's made up of 3 short stories. The first story was going to be in an anthology, Bad Girl anthology that I've got coming out next month. So I hired Marcelo Salazar to draw this one-off story for it. But when I got his artwork back for it, I thought it looks so good that I need to get him to do some more of this. So then it kind of expanded from being a 6-page story into the 28-page comic that it is now. So I got him to draw the third story of the comic, and I drew a story in the middle as well. And it's now going to be either a 3 or 4 issue miniseries, especially because now it's become my most successful single issue on Kickstarter. So I can't just do a single issue and just leave it at that. Although it does work as a standalone on its own, but it does have things within the story that you kind of want to know where that's going. And I don't spoil it by saying anymore, but
Oh yeah,
it
absolutely.
it very easily would follow on into either 3 or 4 issues. Now, I have got a plan for an ending for it around about issue 3 or 4. So
That is awesome. I mean, it sounds like a good smaller arc to go with. Of course, it's not 28 issues, so it's not the big arc. But I mean, good, 3 or 4 issues would be a good one to go ahead and go with that, because it gives someone else, like I said, it gives you something to veer off of the main lane and go check out this over here and kind of come back to the main story as it's going along. So it gives you more scenic viewing to watch as you're going down the freeway.
Yeah. I think it's good to have a little break for me. For my sanity, it's good to have a little break and work on something else in between doing the big story arc. And this Jungle Jade was good for me as well to work on being a writer, because like with Killing Cthulhu as well, it's I normally draw my own comics, so drawing for Marcelo on Jungle Jade and Georgia on Killing Cthulhu has been good for me just to work on being a writer. And I've now got lots of projects that I've got full scripts written out for now, that as soon as I've got the money, I could hire an artist and get them published as well.
Nice.
I like drawing my own stuff, but there aren't enough hours in the day to draw the amount of stories that I've got.
Well, I mean, that's one thing that I definitely was going to touch on with you, is the fact that you wear all the different hats. I mean, creator, writer, artist, you're marketing your own stuff. You're doing everything on your own. It gets to the point where you can only put on so many hats, and then you can't pay attention to, the artwork at the time, or the story itself maybe start slipping from you because you're having to, juggle everything at the time. So it's good to have where you can actually start building up, and, you're starting to get big enough in your publishing company that you can actually start reaching out and saying, okay, I need an artist. I need, a person over here to work on this side of it, and start building from there. So starting with an artist is good. And then you'll start seeing more of that as you go along, which is awesome to have it that way, because you can see where this is going to build much bigger.
Yeah, it is unusual. It feels unusual for me to be hiring artists, because I've spent the last 25 years of my life being a professional artist. So to be hiring artists to draw things that I'm writing just seems nonsensical and backwards to me. But there's no other way to do it if I want to get as much stuff out as I do. And once I'd had about 3 or 4 Kickstarters out, that's when I started working with colorists as well, because I did color the first, 5 or 6 comics myself. I do still color stuff all the time anyway. In fact, I was coloring right before I came on this interview. But I found 2 colorists in Chris Hall, he's an American, and Federico Sioc, he's Philippines, I think, or Brazil. I can't remember. I feel awful now. No, Philippines. So those 2 are my main colorists. So I do still color things myself. I try to color covers myself, and interior things, get them colored by the colorists.
And you do it digitally, right?
Yeah. Well, the actual artwork is when I'm drawing. I can show you an example. So that's where are we? No, it's in a bag. But so I tend to draw my pages in pencil, that size. So that's 21 by 30 centimeters. That's in full pencil. So if I'll zoom in a bit, so you can see all the pencil detail in that.
Oh yeah.
And then I scan that in the computer and blow it up and print it out, and then I lightbox it onto paper. So that's the
nice.
That's the black and white. You can see
yes.
You can see all the details and brush strokes and everything on that. So yeah, I don't draw digitally at all. I never have. I wouldn't have a clue how to do it, to be honest. But I do color digitally.
That is awesome that you're able to draw it with that much detail and it comes out the way that it does, because I could have sworn this was being done digital because of all the detail work in there. So kudos to you on that kind of level of artistic, level that you're putting into that. That is awesome.
Yeah. I've always liked sort of the old school way of doing it just on paper. I'm sure I could learn how to do it digitally, but I just don't want to, because I just like having a bit of paper in front of me. I don't think it would be the same without having that. And also, I've got the original artwork to sell as well. So on this Jungle Jade campaign that's on now, I've got 4 of the covers up for sale, and 3 of them have already sold. So if I did it digitally, I would have lost out on $400, $500. So
true, very true.
But although the downside of that is, because I've drawn over 1,000 pages in the last 2.5 years, I've got stacks and stacks of pages that are just sat there not doing anything, because people tend to buy the covers, but no one's interested in the interior pages. So I've just got 950 interior pages that no one's interested in.
Well, I can honestly say, I'm going to tell you right now, everyone that's watching this, that don't skip on what's inside of these books. You know, the exterior, I'm not going to take anything away from that. The covers are gorgeous and all, but I'm going to tell you right now, if he's got pages that are available from the inside, y'all need to pay attention to what's in there, because the story is, you know, it grips you. I mean, it takes you along as a page turner as you're going through this thing. It is awesome the way that it's set up on here. The character development is done very well, to the point where you actually pay attention to what's going on. It's not just you know, let's go over here and see what's happening in the next action sequence, you know, instead of just reading everything that's going along. But the beauty in it, if you can actually take a book, open it up with no lettering, nothing in there whatsoever, and be able to follow along with what's going on with the art alone, that's a success in it right there, because that way it's just icing on the cake whenever you put the actual lettering and get the story going in there. This has that. So don't think for a moment that you're going to open this thing up and be disappointed because it's not what's, you know, on the cover. There's a lot of people that try to do that, where they put, you know, something that's not on what's in the book on the cover, so it entices you. You open up the book and you're like, not what I expected. This is not what you expected either, but in a good way. This is the positive way of that, where you open it up and you actually enjoy what's in there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, if you got the OA on the interiors, people need to jump on that. I wish I was able to do that, to be honest, because there's some gorgeous artwork in there.
Yeah. Well, with the covers, especially when I very first started doing these on Kickstarter, I couldn't afford to hire other artists, so all the covers were by me, and I was still doing variant covers, but you'd get 6 covers that were all by me. So you open it up, and it looks exactly the same inside as it does on the cover for most of the first issues. And obviously, I'm hiring artists now, like the Zong brothers that have done the cover that's on Jungle Captive on the left of the background up here. And they've done a cover and a poster for Jungle Jade as well. I mean, they're absolutely amazing. But I hope people wouldn't be disappointed when they open it and see my artwork inside, because I've spent 25 years perfecting my craft. It's just taken me this long to get anything published.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, they won't be disappointed at all. Now, for those who are new to this, who are just stepping into this, they don't know who you are, they haven't really seen your stuff, for whatever reason, let them know the premise of Jungle Jade. What exactly is it about, without giving too many spoilers, of course, and let them know what they're getting into with this. I would do it myself, because I've read it and everything. I just don't want to accidentally give something away. So I'm going to leave that in your court. So if you do, then you get in trouble, not me.
Okay. So it's about a woman called Jade, and she's sort of, she imagines that she's in a jungle setting when she's actually not, and she's under the illusion that there's some blue gorillas or blue apes trying to capture her, and she feels like she's become one with nature, and she feels the need to get naked, so she's more sort of in tune with the creator kind of thing, but not in a religious way. It's not religious. I don't talk about God or anything in it. It's more like she just calls it the creator and wanting to be at one with him. But as the story goes on, it's gonna look more into her sort of psychological profile. Like the middle story of this issue is her in prison talking to a psychiatrist who's trying to figure out why she's having these visions. As the series goes on, you're going to find out a little bit more about where it's all coming from, and whether it's in her head or not, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's got the psychological elements to it, because just as you're going along and you're like, okay, I don't know where I missed what's going on here and what's happening with this here, and then all of a sudden something is, you know, some level of you know, peeling back an onion layer on there happens, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm still interested, I'm going along with this and going to the next one, and you find yourself where you're turning pages in a rapid rate because you want to figure out exactly how this is happening, and then you go back and you look at it going, where did I miss it? How did you fit this in here where I didn't see this happening? So it's really cool that you're able to set it up that way, because too many times you get to where you're opening up a comic, you're reading through it or whatever, and there's a definitive story where you're like, okay, this is point A, B, and C. I know exactly where this is going and where it's headed, and we're getting there. And of course, you finish the book and you're like, it was okay. And then there are other ones where you go along, and you're like, okay, here's A, and we went to wait a minute, we're at the G. Where was all this stuff here? We went to A to G. What happened? And yours is like that, and then it explains, and then it'll bounce again, but not in a way that throws your attention off. It actually gains more of your attention. And again, that is related to the artwork itself too, draws you in where you want to turn the pages and keep going, because comics are all about taking you out of the realism that we have in the world and putting you in a fantasy, world with that. And this one definitely succeeds in doing that. So again, great job on doing that.
Thank you.
It's a very fun read. I mean, it's a lot of fun to go through and immerse yourself into this and see what's happening. And like we talked about earlier, this is not his first rodeo on this. I mean, 20 books that he's, done on Kickstarter with this, and this one's doing very well. He said it's the most successful that he's done so far as of the time of recording this. And we're getting kind of in the end part of this going on. But you're at $14,000 is the dollar amount on there, but you've got 338 backers on this. That is awesome. Is there a lot of return backers coming on? Do you see a lot of new people showing up, or what are you seeing the trend on this?
On this one, I'm seeing about 50% of it is new backers and 50% is existing ones. Whereas with every other campaign that I've done, like Jungle Captive and Vampocalypse, I've got a very definite fan base that comes back for every issue. Whereas this, it's just taken on a totally new audience. So I've got all my backers from other campaigns, or a lot of them, and then probably about 150 new backers that I don't recognise the names of. So I couldn't have launched it at a better time, because I was meant to be launching a Bad Girls anthology that was meant to come out at the time that this one came out, but I didn't quite get it finished in time. So I already had Jungle Jade finished and ready to go, and I was planning to launch it in April, I think. But I thought I'd launch it now just to fill the gap before I get my anthology out. And it's ended up being this successful. But what it's also done, because I've now added 150 extra backers that I didn't have before, they'll go onto my mailing list. And now when I advertise my anthology next month, I've now got 150 extra people that are going to hear about it through my mailing list. So
nice.
It couldn't have worked out better, to be honest.
There you go. I mean, that's the best way to do it there. Now, did you do anything different marketing wise or anything to pull in, extra backers on this, or did they just kind of show up like moths to a flame?
They just showed up. So I've got my mailing list anyway, which is about 1,000 people. Of those, normally about 100 back my campaigns, and they'll back anything that I put out. I do adverts on Facebook, in all the Kickstarter groups. I've never paid for advertising. I've got to where I am now just literally for free. I've not paid for any advertising. I've only ever done 2 previous interviews as well, and one of them was awful because my internet kept breaking and no one could hear what I was saying. But I've not paid for any advertising, not done anything different this time. It's just, I wonder if people have maybe looked at my other campaigns over the last few months and thought, oh, it seems like there's too much going on, or like they've got to buy 5 issues to understand the story, or 28 issues to understand the story. Whereas this one, I made it very clear at the top of the campaign that it's a new standalone story, just so they know it's not tied up with Jungle Captive, because I know it's obviously similar in name, but it's totally not related to it. But so I made that clear at the top. So I think that's why a lot more people are coming in thinking knowing that it's a new IP.
Right. And sometimes going with something fresh in there while you've got, like, we were talking about other where you got something that's going along that's carrying the weight of everything, and then you got something fresh and new that just kind of throws outside to the side and says, hey, wait a minute, let me see if anyone else notices, something new on here. And it worked for you on this one. So I'm very interested to see what the next one is going to be. And if you've got the anthology coming up, anthologies have been doing very well for the past year or so, which is odd, because usually anthologies are such a hit and miss thing that if you don't have just the right content on there or just the right creators' names showing on there, anthologies are always overlooked because no one likes a big book. They like the small books they can go through pretty quick. They don't want to actually read through. And anthologies didn't have a good name, and now they're getting much better. So by having more eyes on this one, and by having the momentum that you've already had, with the rest of the IPs, anthology may work out very well for you.
Yeah, I've gone a slightly different route as well, because I know what you say about anthologies, how quite often they're not popular. I think probably in comic shops they're not popular, whereas on Kickstarter they tend to do really well. But for me, an anthology, what puts me off it is you get 1 or 2 really good stories, and then 4 or 5 filler stories that just aren't as good. So what I've done with mine is I've spent 2 years making it, so I've drawn every page of it. I've got some other writers that have worked on it with me, and some colorists, but I've drawn every page of it. So it's going to be about 120 pages, and then there'll be a volume 2 coming out in about 4 months' time. There'll be another 120 pages. That's all done now, ready to launch at the beginning of February.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's an anthology in name, but I don't know if it's a true anthology because I'm the artist of it all. But
right,
it's got different writers, so I suppose it is an anthology. And it's that one's got, I think, volume 1's got a Jungle Captive and a Vampocalypse short story, just like a 10 or 12 page story. But then it's got all new, totally new IPs in that are sort of one-offs and totally unrelated to anything I've done before. So it's full of short stories that it can be read totally on its own without knowing anything about any other characters.
Nice.
But yeah.
Now, what is something that, because I know you've done, like I said, 20 Kickstarters you've done already, and each time you do a crowdfunding, you always tend to learn something to move on with. What is the one thing? What is one thing that you can pick out of this campaign that you learned in a positive way that you're going to take with you to the next campaign and build off of? What is something that's really stood out to you?
I don't know. I think it's just the thing about it being a short, almost self-contained story. I've spent the last 2.5 years working on essentially the same project over 3 different titles, but the same big story. Whereas with Jungle Jade being a shorter one, that's definitely how I'm planning to go forward. Anyway, I've got 11 projects lined up at the moment, all different IPs that are all miniseries or graphic novels, and that's the way I intend to go. So it's good to see that Jungle Jade is proving that is the right way to go in keeping it as a short story that's self-contained. Nice. I mean, Jungle Captive's done really well anyway, but yeah, if I can keep it to short stories, I think that's definitely going to be the way forward.
Now, out of all of your IPs that you've done so far, what is one that you would have your eyes on if somebody were to say, we'll take one of them and option it to a animated or live action or whatever show in that nature? What would you choose?
Oh God, see, I don't think any of them are TV friendly because Vampocalypse it is kind of because it's like a vampire story, but because of the way it all ties into Jungle Captive, the Jungle Captive part of it wouldn't be appropriate for TV. So I don't know. I think Model Behavior would work as a TV show, but again, it's got lots of ladies taking the clothes off, so I'm not sure it would work. I've got other projects coming up that would be much more suited to it, like the Flutters webcomic that I'm drawing, and I'm working on a graphic novel with my daughter as well at the moment. That's it's a more serious story. It's just a one-off. It's sort of it's like a cancer story. I don't want to give too much away because me and my daughter are still writing it. But basically, it's about a father and daughter bonding through knowing that she's not going to be living much longer. So it's an entirely different theme and subject than what people have seen from me before. But it's a story that I came up with the basic plot for about a year ago, and I talked to my daughter about it because I thought it'd be nice if we could work on it together. She'll be turning 16 soon, so she's going to be inking some of the pages for me as well. So
nice.
So I'll draw them and get her to ink bits of it, so it can be a proper collaboration, just me and her, and that's going to be black and white. So we'll do that just between the two of us, and hopefully get that out. And that's one that I want to try and get into a major publisher as well, rather than just doing it through Kickstarter. So I'll do a Kickstarter first because it's always handy to be able to go to someone like Dark Horse and say, look, this just made 20 grand on Kickstarter. There's an audience for this kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I'd like to move into more serious things. I think the only reason I've been doing things like Jungle Captive and Jungle Jade is because I can draw those kind of things and people like them. So I'd like to still draw things like that. It's just I'd like to focus equally as much on the writing of things and write some more serious projects or more meaningful things that resonate with people more than.
That makes sense.
The other stuff I've done is fun, but it's not not got the depth that I think I could have as a writer. And it's always nice to stretch myself and see what I can do as a writer.
Exactly. Now, for one thing, of course, whenever you get to that point, that that book is going to be getting to a closer point to being done or completed at that time. I'll definitely try to get you back on as a guest, and we'll see if we can get your daughter on as well to discuss, her role in building up to doing this and all.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to bring up, I have a question because you brought up a quick statement just a while ago about, you said that, you hadn't really thought about, options for TV shows because it wouldn't be accepted, with some of the networks and everything like that.
Yeah.
So my question is, because whenever you're dealing with the NSFW things, the biggest obstacle is always the exposure, no pun intended, that you're getting from everyone else out there and everything. How are you trying to manage and overcome that obstacle with that? Are you going to different people? Are you reaching out to different networks, trying to network out differently, that you've got this available, or how are you going about that?
I don't do that at all. I with all the Kickstarters up until about 2 months ago, all I've done is just advertise on Facebook in the Kickstarter groups and things. About 2 months ago, I sent out packages because I had my 3 hardbacks all finished of Jungle Captive, Model Behavior, and Vampocalypse. I sent PDFs of those out to about 30 publishers in America. One of them was Aftershock, and I've just heard that they've declared bankruptcy, haven't they? So
yeah,
I think they turned me down. Well, everyone either turned me down or ignored me, to be honest. So I had a couple come back to me and say it's not appropriate for the kind of stuff we publish. So that's fair enough. But I've had quite a few publishers come back and say we're just not looking for new content at the minute. Even publishers that I know do publish not suitable for work stuff, they've come back and said they're not looking for stuff. So whether they're just being polite and they don't like what I do, or if they're genuinely not looking for things, but I think the American comic market is massively suffering at the minute. So I think it's going to be difficult to get into any publisher. So I've never had desires to work for Marvel or DC. So I don't feel like I've got to sort of push towards like one day writing Batman or whatever. I've always been an indie guy. I enjoy publishing my own stuff. It's a shame that some of my time that should be spent writing and drawing is taken away by parceling things up and talking to printers and stuff. I'd rather hand the pages off to someone else and get that done. But we've reached a point now where the comics are making enough on Kickstarter that my girlfriend is only working part-time now. She's cut her job down from full-time to part-time, and she's now part-time admin staff for me. So literally 2 days ago, we had a load of comics to go out from a previous Kickstarter, and so she just spent all day putting comics in envelopes and printing off address labels. So I've got her doing that, and I've got my daughter cutting rolls of bubble wrap into sheets when we need them to wrap the books in. So she gets a bit of pocket money, and my girlfriend gets money. I pay her as well for helping out. So,
but that's very cool that you have it even in a small way, that you're working together and doing all that, because you're building the foundation, for how big this thing is turning out. Because like you said, you're already getting bigger and bigger, amounts coming in on the crowdfunding.
Yeah.
And this is your largest one yet. And you've still got more on the table that's coming out after this that'll be building up as well.
Yeah.
So it's good to have that experience, yes, to have on there. But that's also so you can reach out to other people and say, we know how it works. So you're not going to, tell us how you think it's going to work and be wrong about it. And we're going to put it in your hands. We want to know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's cool, because you definitely are going to get to that point. I can already see your IP getting to that point where it's going to be like, okay, I got to hand this off and get someone else to do this so I can keep working on this and keep producing at the rate that I am. Otherwise, you'd have to scale it back. And people are kind of like, okay, I saw something last year. When's the next one coming out?
Yeah.
And if you fall behind that much, it's whenever people start going, is it really going to be coming out? Is it really not? You start getting doubts at that point. You're constantly putting things out there and you're fulfilling in a very quick time as well.
Yeah. We do fulfillment straight away. So what we tend to do, as soon as I get the payment from Kickstarter, I order the comics from the printer. They usually take about 10 to 14 days, and then we tend to have a full day, both me and my girlfriend working together, bagging and boarding, and then parceling stuff up, and then a second day where she'll do it on her own, just finishing off stuff we started. And we tend to fulfill a campaign in 2 to 3 days. we've become pros at it now because we've done 20 of them. It's been easier. It helped as well that before I was making Kickstarter comics, I'd run a business, like an online comic shop myself, like buying and selling comics and books and toys. So I'd had experience of sort of knowing that I could cope with 200 parcels or whatever. So it's not been a shock to me. And I know a lot of artists come into doing Kickstarter comics and they're not experienced in sort of the business side of things. Whereas I've run businesses doing things like that by buying and selling comics, and I've been a commercial artist and I've done advertising and I've done commissions. So none of this is new to me. It feels like finally all the skills I've learned over the last 10, 20 years, finally put into something. And I hit the ground running. Like I say, I had relative success very early on. So I think it's probably because I knew what I was doing. Basically, whether people like the comics or not, definitely the business side of it was already set up, ready to go.
Nice. Now, one of the last questions that I want to ask you, kind of leading into the end of this, is with your experience, dealing with so many of these on Kickstarter. Of course, there are creators that are out there that come in there with their first campaign and they're wanting to do $50,000 because they see that done from other creators that are out there. And of course, they get upset whenever they only get, $5,000 or less on there. What is the biggest piece of advice that you can give to someone new coming into doing a crowdfunding campaign that would be, very helpful coming from somebody from your experience level?
I would say for your first campaign, keep it small. Maybe do a one shot or do the first issue of a series that you plan to continue with, but don't expect to make any money on your first one. And your first one is basically, if you don't have a mailing list, like I didn't have a mailing list. I had no previous customers or anything that backed me on my first campaign. It was literally, I put it up on Kickstarter and people saw it on Kickstarter and backed it. But from that point on, when you start your second campaign, you've then got, well, I had 74 backers on my first campaign. I then had 74 email addresses that I can send a message to and say, this is my next one. And then they come back and then other people just see it on Kickstarter. So I would say try not to spend too much on your first one. Like if you have to hire artists, and it was different for me because I wrote and drew and colored it all myself. But if you're having to hire artists, try and keep it cheap and maybe keep it to 24 pages. Most of mine are sort of 52 pages because I'm insane. But if they can keep it to a relatively small package, expect to only break even or possibly make a loss on your first one. But then know that it's going to get better from that point on because then you've got at the start of a mailing list. And my mailing list has come entirely from Kickstarter backers. I don't get any names from anywhere else really. So I've managed to I think I've got nearly 1,100 on my mailing list. I mean, most of them don't back. Only maybe 10% of them back, but 10% of 1,000 is better than 10% of nothing. So
exactly,
and it's going up every time. So this Jungle Jade campaign, it's going to add another 150 names to my list. So greater potential for the next one. So I'd say it's just a cumulative thing where you're going to get better and better at it. Just keep it small and simple for your first one, just so you can learn the ropes. And then after that, then shoot for the moon.
Nice. Well, I'm about to give you full screen on this one because I want you to let everyone know why they need to get over there and support Jungle Jade any way that they possibly can and add to that 150 extra people that you've got on mailing list, and they can get added on that as well. So go ahead and let them know, full screen on this one, let them know why they need to get over there and use the power of that finger and go ahead and hit that share button or support it any way they can. Let them know why they need to get over there.
Okay. Right, so Jungle Jade, it's live now on Kickstarter. It ends on the 12th of January. It's got amazing artwork. Marcelo Salazar is the artist that I've hired for it. He's drawn 2/3 of it. I've drawn the other third. It's a bad girl comic in the style of 90s bad girl comics, but modernized a little bit. And it's a fun comic. You don't get many of them these days because everything's all decompressed storytelling and really boring, but it's fun, and that's what comics should be. And it's got some lovely artwork on the covers by Marcelo Salazar, myself, the Zong brothers. There's a poster. Can't recommend it enough. So you can either go over to Kickstarter and look for Jungle Jade, or if you go to my website, underglowcomics.com, there's a link on there that will take you to Jungle Jade, and go and back it. So my kids can have food on the table. No pressure, though.
It's good to eat every once in a while. No, it is awesome. Y'all need to get over there, check this thing out. And, like I said, power of the finger, get over there. And if you cannot, because not everybody can financially support everything that's out there, but this is definitely one that I am telling you, you for sure need to go over there and share it out at least to get more eyes on this thing. And I'm letting everyone know that's backed this thing already. If you have backed it, hit that share button on top of backing it. It actually triggers the algorithm again on Kickstarter, which will get it even more known. So more people, can get some eyes on there as well. That's kind of an unknown fact to a lot of people that are on there on dealing with the algorithm, but it does definitely help the more times it's shared, especially after it's been backed as well. So make sure you do that. But Gary, I want to thank you again for being on here and for spending the time with me today to go ahead and record this segment on here. Again, from over across the pond, I feel like I'm a celebrity. Again, being able to interview somebody from not in the U.S. So it's been awesome being able to talk to you and learn about your experience and what you've put into this and what you've gained from all of this going forward. And I'm looking forward to having you back on and, getting some more of your knowledge moving forward on the different projects you have on. I cannot say I appreciate it enough that you've been on here today.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate you taking the time to interview me. I find these things a bit stressful, but you've made it. It's not been stressful. It's been all right.
That's what I try to do, at least. I've already lost my hair from all my stress, so I don't want to make sure. I want to make sure everyone else keeps theirs. But,
yeah, thank you.
But I thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and put you backstage for right now, do my closing, and then I'll be out there shortly. So let me finish this up.
No worries. See you later.
All right. All right. So we had Gary Parkin on here. We were talking about Jungle Jade and the different IPs he's got with Underglow. There's a lot of things that are on there and a lot of experience that he has dealing with Kickstarter and the crowdfunding segments on there. Now, my shows have always been about the content, it's on here with the creator or the creator themselves, learning who they are. There's always been some kind of a closing statement on there that goes along with that. I'm changing things up as of 2023 because everybody does something different on there. Mine is actually simply going to be get over there and see what's going on with this thing. The power of the finger, hashtag power of the finger, because I've actually got that on there as a hashtag, the correct one if you can. Hit that share button and let more people have the option of going ahead and seeing what's going on with this. It is NSFW style. It is more mature. It is not a kid's book by any means, but give everyone the choice of having to go over there and see what they think about it and kind of move it forward from there. If you don't have the choice and you never know it existed, how are you going to know in the first place if you do or do not like it? So I'm telling you right now, as someone who does like this, as someone who does enjoy the story, as someone who does enjoy the fact that it does move you from page to page on here, you definitely want to go over and check this out and see what's going on with it and keep an eye on this publisher and see what's happening in the future as well. So until next time, certainly appreciate everyone being here. If you enjoy what you're seeing on here, please, please, please remember to go ahead and, like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We had that link on here earlier. Just make sure you're going to go over there and take care of that. That way you don't miss any of the other content we have going on. We've got a lot of changes we're going to be coming into the new year. Probably won't be happening until February, March, because we have kind of a slow start moving into this, but you're going to see some major things happening. So again, thank you for being here. Certainly appreciate it. So until next time, I love this part of the show whenever I get to end it this way. Keep it indie, y'all.